Welcome back to Your Voice, Women's Rights in the Workplace. My name is Deborah O'Rell, and I'm the host of this show. I represent Tuckner Sipser, which is an employment discrimination law firm. We concentrate in representing women in the workplace, pregnancy discrimination, gender pay disparity, etc. And this webcast is where I will be interviewing trailblazing women who draw on their personal experiences and use their voices to expand women's rights and women's opportunities. And today I am, this sounds like a cliche, but I really am thrilled to be introducing Dana Rubin. She is the founder of Speaking While Female. Dana is a speechwriter, speaking coach, and message strategist dedicated to bringing women's voices to the forefront. For over 2 decades, Dana has helped women in business, education, and nonprofits find their voice, including high-profile individuals like Martha Stewart, as well as top executives from CBS, Deloitte, PepsiCo. Her company, Speaking While Female, encompasses both coaching as well as the world's largest collection of women's speeches entitled the Speaking While Female Speech Bank, and I highly recommend checking out this site. You have some amazing content there. So please join me in saying hello to Dana. And thank you so much for taking time to be with us today.
I'm so glad to be with you. Thank you. It was a beautiful introduction. And just for clarification, my online archive is what I believe constitutes the largest online collection of women's speeches. I'm sure there are archives.
You think?
I'm quite sure there are archives of women's history that have more, but mine are accessible. Anybody from around the world with an internet connection can go there and read and watch and listen and hear what women have had to say throughout the centuries.
Yeah, it's definitely bookmarked for this weekend to start to read through some of those. And I have to say, I also was reading, one of your struggles that, many entrepreneurs and women have. It's that balance between the passion project versus the career or family. It's that balance. And all I was thinking about looking at the site and going through some of the speeches is, how can we monetize this? This is incredible content, and really, I think it would be inspiring. So what did inspire you to put this collection together, to go into this work?
Well, it was a number of factors, but I began to be aware about 6 or 7 years ago of the extent to which women's voices were underrepresented in what we think of as the public sphere or the marketplace of ideas. Anywhere that ideas, expertise, intellectual firepower is out in the world, shaping our policy, shaping the way we think about affairs, there were far fewer women represented. And that's everything from women at conferences as speakers, women on the podium, to women in op-eds, in articles, in criticism, in literary criticism, in political criticism, even letters to the editor. Almost every place where ideas shape the choices that we make in our cultures, we don't have enough women's voices. The situation has changed for the better over the last 6 or 7 years since I've been thinking about this. It's changed a lot, especially in the developed world, but we're still not where we need to be. So I started thinking about what could I do to help make a difference. And in my little piece of the world, it's a little piece, but it opens up into a larger piece, the world of speech, public speech and oratory. I noticed that there were so few women's voices represented, and that's in the history books. It's in our curriculum. It's in the anthologies that purport to represent the best speeches in history. So I set about to change that. I set about to find out what women were speaking, what women have spoken about, and put them all together where we could see how women have shared their expertise for centuries, despite the obstacles, despite the challenges. Women have put their voices out there, and that their voices have been agentive. Their voices, their words have had agency, and that's not just in speeches. It's in public testimony at trials, wherever the public is listening and people are speaking. Women's voices have been there and need to be there.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm not surprised that there's a lack of women's voices in speeches, because if you look at boardrooms or, business, it's mostly men, and women are still blocked, so they don't always have a seat at the table. And therefore, until there are more women, and studies have shown more women's voices, there are more women at the table, those kinds of companies have better outcomes in terms of profitability, retention, even health, because women care about different things than maybe men do. Do you notice any of that? Yeah.
Yes, it is definitely true that organizations that have an array of voices, an array of contributions into decision making and into operations, shall we say, they do better. They do better, and that doesn't just go for women's voices; it goes for the voices of all kinds of diverse people.
Right.
But I think of it I tend to think of it more in a little different terms. I think in terms of expertise. Mm-hmm. So it's about representation. Yes, different voices represented at the table, so to speak.
Right.
But I also think in terms of expertise, because we have so many large problems that we're dealing with in our society. We are dealing with, of course, the climate change and all the attendant problems. We're dealing with governance issues, how to preserve and strengthen our democracy. We're dealing with business and commercial issues. They're huge problems. And if women's voices, women's expertise and knowledge, intellectual firepower is not there contributing, we are going to not get the best thinking, and we're not going to make the best decisions. Mm-hmm. And I know from my many years as a speech coach that it is simply harder for women to put their voices into the mix. And I don't say that in terms of every single woman. I don't speak in specific. I mean, in the aggregate, it's harder for more women to speak and share their knowledge than it is for, let's say, most men, for a variety of reasons.
Right.
Women face prejudices. Women don't have the experience. Women have different responsibilities in organizations. But the bottom line is that it is just women face criticism. When they put their voices into the public sphere, they get criticized. So that
differently than men do?
Oh, absolutely. Women get criticized. Women's voices get criticized for being too high, too low, too shriekish, shrill, having an upturn at the end. I mean, there are all kinds of reasons that women get scrutinized and criticized more and differently than men do. Mm-hmm. And if you were being criticized like that, it would be, it's a disincentive to want to put your voice in the mix, because who wants to be?
Of course. Yeah.
So for all those reasons, it is simply harder for women. Mm-hmm. But I do believe if we all benefit from the awareness that women have done it for centuries and have changed the world with their voices, that it will be an inspiration to all of us to do more of that.
Yeah. So we can stay on the bigger picture where it does feel overwhelming and we're only making inches of progress. So if we bring that down to each individual woman, is there something you notice that women do that hurts them, unintentionally, unconsciously, or maybe to put it in a more of a positive? What things can women do to be heard, to get that seat at the table? Do you have suggestions?
Well, I try to be very careful, because it's not all women. There always are and have been women who aren't hesitant. Yeah. It's just many women. And as I said, in my experience, it's more women than most men have challenges. And the main challenge, I would say, is claiming your expertise. Claiming your expertise. So what do I mean by that? I mean, having the full awareness that you have the knowledge, you have the education, you have the experience, you have the responsibility to put your knowledge into the mix. Now that goes for responsibility to your organization to make sure your organization is optimizing its performance, benefiting from the best knowledge and best thinking and expertise. And it also means in terms of your own career, advancing your career by making sure that the organization, that your superiors, that your colleagues are aware that you have this knowledge and that it deserves to be contributing to the success of your organization. So
Right.
what I have found, generally speaking, is that if you ask a woman, what is your expertise? What's your expertise? Women tend to say, this is a big generalization, but tend to say a number of things. Number one is me. I'm not an expert. Even if the woman has a PhD and has written 5
Really?
books, I'm not an expert. Women don't like to claim their expertise or say they're experts. Another thing that you often hear women say is, it was a group effort. It wasn't just me. We all did it. So there's a tendency for women to be very affiliative and want to promote
Yes.
the group, it's admirable and it's important. It's important to do both. It's important to support your colleagues and affirm that there's been a concerted effort to achieve something, but it's also important to acknowledge your own contribution. And then the third thing I frequently hear women say is, I don't like to brag. I just don't like to brag. So in the workshops that I teach, I make a point of running through some exercises and reinforcing the message that self-advocacy is not bragging.
Yeah. Is there any advice in general you would offer to women to, for today to move forward? If there was one thing you could share to leave women with, what would that be?
Well, I would say the most general statement I could say was to know that your voice matters. Your voice matters. And it sounds like a slogan. It sounds rather simplistic, but it's actually very profound. To know that it is you, it's incumbent upon you. In a sense, I believe it's not an exaggeration to say that the world depends on your voice, your career, your self-satisfaction, your organization, your field. All of that depends on having the best knowledge in the world, and your knowledge is unlike anyone else's.
Right.
Everybody has unique experience, and everybody needs to contribute. I can't emphasize enough how critical it is for us to benefit from everyone's knowledge. And if we're not doing that, then we are letting ourselves down, and we're letting the world down.
Yeah. So it just makes me want to say, how can I help you get this out into the world? Because this is at the core. We're speaking about women, but this is obviously, many men too. But the feeling self-worth, self-valued, that they do know something, that they are an expert. And when I think about myself, I have been able to find people or places to go that have supported me, that have lifted me. And so in, my later years, I'm trying to do that for other women and to provide that feedback that, my God, your voice is so important. And I just want to applaud you for doing what you're doing. It's really, really incredible. So I just want to, do you have anything else you want to, because I just want to be mindful of your time.
Well, I'm getting ready to publish a book, and I decided for a number of reasons, I decided to publish it myself. I didn't want to go to a mainstream publisher, but I'm publishing an anthology of speeches by American women, and it's going to it's going to tell the story of America through women's voices. It's going to tell the story of women in America through their own voices. And the title will be Speaking While Female, 50 Extraordinary Speeches by American Women.
Oh my God, what a great title. I cannot wait for your book tour. I mean, this is something that is really needed right now. I know everybody says it, at every point, but truly having that aggregated in one place like that, I would be looking forward to that book for
Thank
sure.
you. Thank you.
This I can see giving to daughters for, Christmas gifts or, holiday gifts.
Graduation. I think I'm going to
Graduations.
miss Christmas. I'm not going to get it out in time for Christmas, but graduation in the spring.
Okay, there you go. That works. That works. This law firm was founded because one of the partners realized that women were the largest minority in the country and really needed advocacy. It was founded 20-something years ago, before women's rights were really being spoken. And it's because he has 2 daughters. And he needed to change the world for his daughters. So,
in my archive, I have a very large section on women in law, and the earliest women who were allowed to be lawyers. It's not like really that they were allowed. Many of them petitioned, had to sue, had to fight their way into the profession. But women have been changing the world of law and the world itself through their voices in the legal sphere.
And science is another big one that people women aren't really recognized for. So I really thank you so much, Dana, for your time. We appreciate this. And for the listeners, thank you for joining us on Your Voice, Women's Rights in the Workplace. Check out episodes or read our women's rights advocacy. Please go to womensrightsny.com. Thank you again, Dana.